mighty Jabba asks why he must pay 50,000 because he's holding a thermal detonator.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gungans and droids, welcome to the Grand Arena Coliseum, where we got a mad lad on the loose and they're holding a thermal detonator. And that's the one and only Boushh Leia Organa, the newest addition to the Hutt Cartel. Now, before you start commenting, oh, you're saying her name wrong, guess what? There's multiple ways of saying it. Star Wars explained it. Hit him with the facts.
Or Bosch, or Boushh, or Boushh, or however you like to pronounce that.
But today's video is not about the linguistics of a made-up language for a name that really wasn't even said in the movies. What we're talking about today is how is Boushh Leia Organa changing the Hutt Cartel, and I can say this safely, she is gluing the Hutt Cartel together, and there's definitely a usable team for you to use until you get your hands on Jabba the Hutt, which, as a reminder, she is a requirement for Jabba the Hutt at Relic 5. What we're gonna focus on today is more so what can she accomplish for the Hutt Cartel, and then we can speculate in regards to, well, what is she gonna do for the inevitable Jabba the Hutt Cartel team down the road. And definitely I'm more impressed with this team than I was a couple days ago. Some big key stats that I really like about this character is that she's got some really good speed, a base speed of 185, which isn't as fast as Moff Gideon's 198 speed. He's the fastest non-legendary character in the entire game, but 185 is very usable and top tier speed, especially for non-galactic legend characters. The other thing that is of note, which is incredibly important, is she has best in class base potency, the highest potency when you're looking at stats before mods are implemented, and that is going to be critical because her entire kit is based off of thermal detonators. And the two teams that she's really making some use out of is one, obviously the Hutt Cartel, and I kind of like her lead more than I anticipated. And funny enough, she is going to be the new queen of the Jawas. She is a fantastic lead for the Jawas and makes thermal detonators pile up extremely quickly, where now Jawas are beating teams they probably have no right beating. So to give a quick summary on the character, in the Hutt Cartel, she is a character that's reducing enemy speeds, preventing attacks out of turn, which is probably bugged or misworded. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I think this character is actually a lot better if they address a potential bug with her kit. She can constantly assist, throwing tons of thermal detonators on the opposing side of the team. And she's got ways of gently increasing some stats for smuggler characters, a little bit of extra armor, a little bit of extra offense, extra potency, and a little bit of extra speed. But on top of that, if the leader slot is a Hutt Cartel member, Boushh Leia and light side smuggler allies are immune to stuns and ability blocks. And then you get the double dose bonuses for light side smuggler allies. So she's passively feeding extra stats to the team, which is kind of nice. When she's not in the Hutt Cartel, and this is kind of important because either one, you can make a very advanced Jawa team or a very poor bounty hunter scoundrel team. Once you break away even one single Hutt Cartel member, she doesn't feel as special, and she kind of feels like a slightly more advanced version of the Jawa scavenger at that point, because once you move away from a full Hutt Cartel team, you're kind of missing the big thing. She no longer stops attack out of turns, which right now it seems like it's only addressing assists, not counterattacks. She can't reduce the enemy speed anymore, and she's not going to assist as much. And that's kind of a lot of stuff you're missing out on. We did one battle with Rebel fighters notorious for tons of assists and attacks out of turn. But instead, when Leia's in there, Kyle Katarn opens up the battle, but no one comes to the assist, and it's a weird feeling because normally you're used to seeing 5 million attacks from the Rebel fighters before you get a turn. That's all because of her Deadly Bluff mechanism. Deadly Bluff automatically applies to the opposing team, even if there is no full Hutt Cartel team. But Deadly Bluff isn't going to do anything unless you have the full Hutt Cartels, and then once you get that full Hutt Cartel team, all of a sudden they can't attack out of turn if they have it straight up. You have to do nothing else. At the very start of the battle, she shuts down assisting, but it only lasts for 3 turns. And then if you have Deadly Bluff, and on top of that, thermal detonators, she's also pulling back 25 speed. So the second you move away from a full Hutt Cartel team and say you want to throw in Zam, very logical, right? Lots of thermal detonator synergy there. All of a sudden, the Rebel fighters are back to their old self. They're taking 5 million turns, and you just don't get any attacks in there. So this is kind of important because the second you break away from that Hutt Cartel, you're not really getting the full benefit of her kit. And I'm sure there's going to be ways that you can have some fun of Zam and Dengar, but the point I'm getting at is I think she's going to be a lot better with her Hutt Cartel family, which is kind of the intended purpose of her. The other great thing about her is that I actually was not expecting to like her leadership as much. Brutal Bargainer. Increase the max health and max protection of all of her bounty hunter allies, and then enemies of Deadly Bluff, they are losing 25% tenacity. And when you consider the fact she's got best-in-class potency and she's reducing tenacity, you're gonna have a pretty easy time making sure those thermal detonators don't get resisted, because that's the biggest weakness for thermal detonators. If they get resisted, you're missing out on pretty much the whole point of her kit. But this is what I really loved about it. At the end of each turn, she gets to dispel all buffs on enemies with both Deadly Bluff and thermal detonators, and this is just magnificent. I think this is honestly one of the biggest things that really makes the Hutt Cartel kind of a viable team. And the best example we have is going up against the Bad Batch. They're a team that's notorious for getting some assists out of turns with Omega, for example, or Bad Batch Echo calling someone to the assist, but they also get tons of buffs. And the fantastic thing is, when you're dispelling all those buffs, the defense up, the stealth, the offense up, the Bad Batch is just sitting ducks. And even in other circumstances, being able to constantly dispel taunts so you can make sure the Hutt Cartels can do their work, it's actually quite a fun lead. And I think right now it's probably the best Hutt Cartel lead specifically. But the great thing is, you can make it work outside of a Hutt Cartel team. Because the other thing about this lead is that when you get the contract triggered, which all you have to do is defeat an enemy with damage from thermal detonators, any one of thermal detonators, doesn't have to be just Boushh Leia or a bounty hunter triggering the thermal detonators. Even if they self-implode and no one triggered it, it triggers the contract if you killed someone off. Or even the Jawas, if Jawa Scavenger triggers the thermal detonators, it triggers the contract. So it's kind of an open-ended contract, which I like. And then when you trigger that payout, your bounty hunters are then immune to stun, because remember, her unique ability allows for light side smugglers to be immune to ability block and stun, but not all bounty hunters are light side and not all bounty hunters are smugglers, so it's nice being able to resist stuns. And then additionally, enemies cannot be revived. It is the end-all be-all when it comes to revives. Even if they were killed without a thermal detonator, with the thermal detonator, this is kind of a big deal. And this is why I truly love running her with the Jawas as well. Jawas are kind of losing a bit of favor. They're a very niche team for things like Genosians, Rebel Fighters. With the Jawas, she's gonna ramp up those thermal detonators even more, because at the end of each turn, if an enemy with Deadly Bluff was inflicted with any thermal detonators, not even just from her, so precisely, we're talking about the Jawa Scavenger unique ability, because anytime you're hitting a Jawa, Jawa Scavenger's passively applying thermal detonators. Leia, on her fearless unique ability, she's going to inflict an additional thermal detonator for 2 turns. And this also works well in the Jawa's favor, because you want your Jawas to be attacked as much as possible. And the good thing is, in this circumstance, she's not going to be able to prevent attacks out of turn, because it's not a full team of Hutt Cartel. So as your Jawas are getting pile driven by the Rebel Fighters, by, for example, even an Ida and Versio team, those thermal detonators are going to multiply to drastic numbers, and once they're being killed off, they can't be revived. So no Mon Mothma revive, no Cara Dune self-revive, and especially in an Iden team, Adapt or Die will not revive any Imperial Troopers, and even Iden herself cannot be revived, even if she's the first one defeated on the Imperial Trooper team. So although very fun in a Jawa team, I think you're going to get some fun uses, and amplifying the Jawa's usefulness a little bit more. It's also great because when she's in a Hutt Cartel team, she's always assisting off a Hutt Cartel member, and when she's using the ambidextrous assault, she's able to constantly land those thermal detonators on her basic attack. So she's kind of like an Omega that throws out thermal detonators, is the best way to put it. And with that great speed, as we talked about with the buff dispel, because she's fast, even without good speed mods, she can get out there, throw out inventive, and then when there's Deadly Bluff in those thermal detonators, all of a sudden you're reducing speed, stopping attacks out of turn, and of course her leadership is removing buffs on the enemy. So very powerful opening play. You kind of want her to go as early as possible to get those thermal detonators rolling. So this part of the video might become irrelevant, but I think there's something either bugged. When it comes to new characters, there's 3 things. You have 1, how the kit reads. 2, how the kit actually operates. And the third element to a new character, or kits in general, is what did the developers intend for these abilities to operate as? We think something's a little bit off. Through our testing, we noticed that Fearless should be stopping attacks out of turn when you have a full Hutt Cartel team, which it does stop assist, which is one branch of attacks out of turn. However, it doesn't stop counterattacks, and counterattacks are generally considered an attack out of turn. Couple examples. Example number 1, Padme Amidala, her unique ability counters attacks out of turns. If you're attacking out of turn, whether assisting or counterattacking, you get bonus protection up, right? Another great example, Count Dooku. Count Dooku gets repost. What does repost do? Repost, when you're attacking out of turn, you get to ignore protection. And when Dooku counterattacks with repost, he's able to ignore protection, which means counterattacking is an attack out of turn. I drew a fancy graphic on stream. You can basically think of it like this. The big umbrella is attack out of turn, and there's 3 branches. You have assist, you have counterattacks, and you have bonus attacks. Like, for example, Han Solo can't shoot twice at the very beginning, only can attack once. So for whatever reason, we're not sure if the verbiage is incorrect and it's not matching the code, or the code is not matching the language. Whatever the case might be, I think either something's wrong in favor or against Leia here. And this is pure speculation right now, but we do know Leia's gonna play some role in Jabba the Hutt and his team. We talked a lot about a variety of things, but to be honest, when we're thinking about Jabba the Hutt and future Galactic Legends teams, that deadly bluff is going to be critical, because assuming you're going to run a full Hutt cartel to a Jabba the Hutt and Leia, being able to stop attacks out of turns is going to be a problem for Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, because, well, Sith Trooper likes to assist normally. Or Jedi Master Kenobi likes to call Ahsoka Tano to assist passively, or it likes to actually target someone to assist. That's not going to work here. Jedi Master Luke likes to call people to assist with his special leadership ability. Well, that's not going to work here. Let's talk about Zetas, Omicrons, and Mods. There's one Zeta on this character, and that's on Fearless. Highly recommend. This is the reason why I think the Hutt Cartel is actually a semi-competing team now. Firstly, this allows her to stop attacks out of turns who have deadly bluff on them, and also this allows her to assist whenever another Hutt cartel uses an ability during their turn, so helping get as many thermal detonators out there as possible. We also have an Omicron onto this character here, which is our first raid Omicron. The only relevant raid that might make this semi-interesting is the Challenge Rancor raid. And although I do not have gameplay, I'll leave a link down below if you want to go check out Lord Draconius's run. And for a first run, they got 2 million damage, which is about 5% of a phase. So initial impressions are this isn't really gonna be a game-breaking Omicron as of now. We'll have to wait and see, but as of now, I don't recommend the Omicron. We have plenty of other teams that can get a similar score without Omicrons. However, this might be a slight indication, kind of like how we're seeing new territory battles, and territory Omicrons are going to skyrocket in value. We might see a raid down the road, so keep your eyes peeled potentially. But as of now, I would probably pass this until either a new raid comes out or something mind-blowing comes out of a Challenge Rancor raid run. Finally, let's talk about mods here. A couple of different ways to go about it. I think honestly, we're going to probably want to triple down on the high speed she has of 185 base speed. My initial inclination is a speed set with potency. I ran her with offense and potency as well as full-on potency. I think a full entire potency set all across board is a little too overkill, especially since she's going to be amplifying her potency through her unique ability. I think one potency set and speed that's going to be the best way to get her out there fast, get those thermal detonators going to trigger all those effects we talked about today. You also might want to opt for an offense and potency set. Since she's assisting a lot, it's kind of letting her do some decent damage with the offense set and making sure she increases her chance of landing those thermal detonators. I think a potency primary is probably going to be nice to have on this primary stat. I haven't seen crazy damage from her, but I think speed, high potency is going to be the way to go. So, of course, we're not seeing the full picture today. We have to wait for Jabba the Hutt. I'm sure she's going to play a cornerstone role to that character. And there's also a chance she might not be fully working as intended. And if they do code her to my hopeful expectation, she could stop counterattacks as well through her deadly bluff. This is going to be a team that's going to do a lot more. The Hutt Cartel, which was not even a team before, is now able to kind of compete with some B and A level tier teams out there with the Hutt Cartel as well as the Jawas. I don't think she's quite elevating the Hutt Cartel to the level of Iden or Dash Rendar or Mon Mothma, but that could maybe change my opinion if they maybe fix her unique abilities and make sure she's stopping counterattacks. Point being is she is a fun character, fast, quick, snappy animations, which I do enjoy, especially if you're assisting a lot, and it's creating a team that really didn't exist before, and ultimately she's going to be needed for a Galactic Legend. So leave your like, comment down below on all your thoughts. I love hearing and chatting with you guys, and more importantly, until we meet again, always remember, it's great to be in the Empire today.